Hello friends, you're on the Ruslan Belov channel, and today, June 15th, 2026, we'll break down the situation around the world. It's been an extremely eventful day. There's genuinely a lot to cover, so right away I'll ask you, subscribe to the channel and hit the like button on this video. The platform keeps throttling reach for analytical material like this. The videos get shadow banned and don't always make it into your recommendations, so any activity from you under the video is real help for the channel. And now let's get started. We'll begin with the massive strike on the night of June 15th. The Russian Federation employed hundreds of drones and dozens of missiles of various types. By early morning, the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense reported that, in total, 681 aerial targets were used against the country's territory over the night. This included both missiles and drones. In parallel, various resources began publishing maps with the approximate flight paths of the munitions. And on them it's clearly visible that the strikes came from two directions, from the north-northeast and from the south-southeast. If you pull together everything that was published over the night and in the early morning and overlay it on the map data, the following picture emerges. Strikes from the southern directions toward the northern regions of Ukraine were carried out predominantly by drones without a warhead. In other words, the Russian side launched hundreds of drones from the Crimean Peninsula, from the Taganrog area, from the south of Zaporizhzhia region, and from the Donetsk region toward the central part of the country, without warheads, with a single purpose: to wear down Ukrainian air defenses and, apparently, to overload the radars. Essentially what is now commonly called air spam. On the other hand, the main real strike fell on the capital, on Kyiv. Here, both hundreds of drones and dozens of missiles were involved. Iskanders were used, the count runs to several dozen launches. Individual Iskanders also reached as far as Dnipropetrovsk region and Kharkiv. Kh-101 cruise missiles came in, attempting to bypass the capital's main air defense lines from the south. Hypersonic zircons were also used. Strikes with them came from the direction of Crimea and from Kursk region. Over the night, a large amount of material appeared devoted to the impacts themselves, their consequences, and the destruction. Worth singling out separately is footage of Ukrainian air defense work over the capital. In some of it you can see several PAC-3 missiles, launched by Patriot systems, veering off trajectory and effectively falling to the ground. And quite a lot of such episodes were published. Let me remind you that several days, perhaps a week, ago there was information that Ukraine had received a batch of PAC-3 missiles for the Patriots that had passed their expiration date. And judging by the quantity of such videos, it's quite possible that on this very night the Ukrainian side was defending itself against Russian ballistic and cruise missiles using, among other things, expired munitions. I'll stress, this is so far an unconfirmed version. There's no direct proof of expiry on the footage. On some recordings, you can see a strike on the capital, presumably by a hypersonic zircon. Precisely where the missile had just passed, a PAC-3 is captured falling, or rather gliding, onto the urban built-up area. There were, of course, also clips of successful intercepts. For example, a cruise missile shot down somewhere in the sky over Kyiv, apparently by the same Patriot. Several clips also appeared showing strikes on different districts of the city, including with the use of what appears to be two zircon systems. There's also a summary video, almost 3.5 minutes, showing the entire course of the nighttime air battle over the capital. The flights of missiles and drones, the impacts, fires in different parts of the city, the work of the air defenses. The battle turned out to be heavy and protracted, and once it ended, the first objective control footage began to arrive, showing an already calm Kyiv at dawn, without explosions or glow, but with thick black smoke rising over the city. Strikes were carried out against various targets, but one of the key ones, it appears, was the Nova Pochta terminal in the southwestern part of the capital. According to pro-Ukrainian resources, it was completely destroyed. Impacts and damage were also recorded in the area of Zuliani airfield. The footage shows that same thick black smoke over the structures. It's a significant location. Since 2022, Patriot air defense positions have repeatedly been noted there, so it's not out of the question that the Russian side was trying to hit the launchers themselves, their radars, or storage sites for missiles and spare parts. The sector was worked over very intensively, There were impacts in the eastern part of the capital as well. The footage shows the consequences of a strike, presumably from debris of missiles or drones shot down over this district, with ensuing fires and destruction. And perhaps the most resonant of all, footage from the center of Kyiv, from the Kyiv-Pechursk-Lavra, which was damaged during the night battle. The rescue services are working to stabilize the situation. The Russian Ministry of Defense published a list of enterprises that were struck. It's a fairly extensive list, and the majority of the facilities are tied, one way or another, to Ukraine's military-industrial complex, drone production, repair and manufacture of armored vehicles. I'll repeat the official figure from the Ukrainian side. On the night of June 15th, 681 aerial targets were used, and the bulk of them fell on the capital. But not only on it. Zaporizhzhia and Dnipropetrovsk regions also took hits. In the morning, information is coming in about railway service delays of several hours, meaning apparently that overnight it was possible to inflict tangible damage on the railway infrastructure, as a result of which traffic from west to east was postponed for a long time. And at a moment when the Zaporizhzhia battle is unfolding, logistics disruptions on this stretch could have unpredictable consequences. Impacts were also recorded on Kharkiv. That's exactly where the first missiles and drones flew, after which the focus shifted to the capital, as well as explosions in the area of Mykolaiv. Now, briefly about the retaliatory strike. That same night, the Ukrainian side carried out a massive strike deep into Russia. According to the published map, around 270 drones were used. Explosions and fires were recorded in the area of Tula, as well as in Roitov, that is, already within the Moscow agglomeration, from where footage came in showing thick black smoke over a residential neighborhood. And this, perhaps, is the key point in this episode. The impression is that since the start of the conflict, an impact of this kind with such visible consequences directly next to Moscow is being recorded essentially for the first time. If so, it's a serious signal. Possibly a new chapter of the war is opening, one in which massive strikes will reach the Russian capital as well. Next, we move to the front line. A lot of important things have accumulated over the past day. We'll start with the Sumy sector, with the Bakivsk area, where Russian units continue their offensive. According to available data, over the past day, they managed to noticeably improve their positions, with advances both toward Bakivsk and toward Tolstodubov. New adjustments should be expected here in the near future to the Sumy direction. Adjustments are being recorded between Pisarivka, Volzhanska and Kyiv. Let me remind you that the Sever, North group of forces has for the past 4 to 5 weeks repeatedly reported continuing infantry battles in these settlements, and that, as a rule, is a harbinger of serious changes on the map in the near term. There are important developments in the Kozacha-Lopan area as well. According to available data, the Russian army already controls roughly 5–7% of the settlement and continues to push south. Various sources are reporting this today, including Sever. Aviation is working over the southern part of the settlement. Corresponding footage has been published. Reinforcements are regularly being moved there, while the Russian side identifies temporary deployment points of AFU, Armed Forces of Ukraine units, and immediately strikes them. Next, the Kupiansk sector, and there's a lot of news from here along with major adjustments. This is how the map looked as of June 14th. Today, the 15th, substantial revisions are being made based on video material published by the Russian side. In this footage, there are dozens of episodes of Russian troops raising flags in various parts of the direction, and all of it points to further improvement of positions along the Oskil River. One flag, 2 to be precise, was recorded in the eastern part of Kupiansk-Vuzlovye, another 3 in the area of the first micro-district of Kovsharivka, which gives a revision in the central part, including over the citadel, another 2 in the northern part of Hlushkivka, and on that basis a large adjustment is being made. Less and less territory remains under AFU control in the northern Kupiansk sector. Several important pieces of footage also came from the Borova area. In the same clip, there are 3 episodes of flag raising in the eastern part of Borova and in Zeleny High, which we are likewise transferring onto the map. The statements by the Ministry of Defense and the General Staff about an offensive here are being confirmed, both by publications and by objective control footage. Let me remind you that on this sector, according to the latest data, between 20 and 30 AFU battalions are blocked. Today, pro-Ukrainian resources are spreading information about the Ukrainian side launching a large-scale counter-offensive from the direction of Hlushkivka and Novyi Mir toward Rydkodub, Nove and Zelena Dolina, with the aim of cutting off the so-called Sviatohirsk pocket. Other experts, however, believe that strikes in that direction pursue only one goal: to hold the corridor and prevent the encirclement of these 20-30 battalions near Borova, preserving their option for an urgent withdrawal toward Oskil and Izium. I'll stress, there's still no confirmed footage of the counter-offensive itself. Both interpretations remain versions. Important footage is also coming in from the Lyman area. The map is being adjusted. More and more objective control footage is appearing, confirming that the Russian army firmly holds a certain part of the city and is expanding its zone of control. It's quite likely that, following Kostiantynivka, Lyman will also come under control. Today's revisions are in the eastern part. The footage shows the use of AFU FPV drones against forward Russian positions. The city's defense is gradually being pressed in. Aviation is regularly working over Shurov, apparently to prevent Ukrainian units from breaking out of a possibly forming encirclement. We move to the Druzhkivka direction. There's plenty of material here too. We'll start with the western Kostiantynivka sector. Another video has been published showing Russian units raising flags in the area of the Mykolaievsky, Belhisky, Sputnik micro-districts and so on down the list. In other words, the offensive in Kostiantynivka continues. A bit to the west, the Dover-Balka area. Today, objective control footage was published with flag raising in various parts of this settlement. Source, pro-Russian. On its basis, and on the basis of Russian Ministry of Defense reports, we're making an adjustment. The Kostiantynivka offensive is gaining momentum, with the advance heading north, toward Mykolaiv-Pilia, Osikove, and Oleksiivka-Druzhkivka. Druzhkivka itself is regularly being worked over by drones. The Russian side is establishing tight control over the city. According to the Russian Ministry of Defense, the Ukrainian side is conducting, above all, an industrial evacuation. Machine tools, equipment, entire enterprises engaged in repair and production of equipment are being removed. With aerial control, the Russian side is trying to slow this removal. Airstrikes are also intensifying on the Dobro-Pilia-Druzhkivka stretch. Many clips of glide bomb impacts are being published. In the near future, an attempt to break through is possible here with the aim of cutting Dobro-Pilia off from the Druzhkivka-Kostiantynivka-Kramatorsk agglomeration. And we close the frontline part with the Zaporizhzhia sector. No changes here. Pro-Ukrainian resources continue to write about a Zaporizhzhia counter-offensive and a substantial improvement of positions toward Komar and Velika Novosilka. Yet to this day, we have not received a single piece of objective control footage that would confirm it. And to wrap up the briefing, the major geopolitical news of the day. On the evening of June 14th, the United States and Iran, after a series of intensive negotiations, announced that a peace agreement had been reached. The first to report it was Pakistani Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, who acted as mediator. The parties announced an immediate and permanent cessation of military operations on all fronts, including Lebanon. The official signing ceremony is to take place on June 19th in Switzerland, with the roles of Qatar, Saudi Arabia and Turkey in reaching the arrangements being noted. This concerns an interim memorandum of understanding. According to the Iranian agency MER, the document consists of 14 points and provides for the lifting of the naval blockade, the suspension of sanctions on Iranian oil, and the unfreezing of at least half of Iran's financial assets. Only once these conditions are met will negotiations on a final agreement continue. Tehran undertakes not to develop nuclear weapons. The missile program has been taken off the negotiating agenda, and the final agreement is to be approved by a UN Security Council resolution. The naval blockade, according to statements from both sides, ends as soon as today, while the opening and subsequent demining of the Strait of Hormuz will occur after the official signing. An important caveat: the text of the memorandum itself has not yet been published, and the parties are already interpreting it differently. Despite the statements about opening Hormuz, commercial vessels are in no hurry to transit the strait. Nevertheless, the markets reacted instantly. Oil and gas prices have gone down, which will directly affect Russian exports as well. So we'll keep tracking this story separately, along with its impact on the energy market and, indirectly, on the financing of the military campaign. That's all for today. Thank you for watching to the end. Subscribe to the channel, hit like. It helps break through the algorithmic barrier. This has been Ruslan Belov. All the best to you and take care.